First of all, what we were watching there was Graham wearing just his boxer briefs,
The
singing.
Marine Corps Silkies. Those are Marine Corps running shorts.
Pardon me, Silkies. First of all, great song choice. Tell us what's happening there, where you are. There's probably some listeners who are very confused. And the reason we are showing this video is because at the very end, you can see a tattoo on your chest. And I've been told that some of your political opponents are telling reporters that that tattoo has a Nazi affiliation. And I would like to know, is that accurate? Are you a secret Nazi?
I am not a secret Nazi. Actually, if you read through my Reddit comments, I think you can pretty much figure out where I stand on Nazism,
Right.
And anti-Semitism and racism in general. I would say a lifelong opponent. The video is from my brother's marriage to his wife, to my sister-in-law, who I was serenading, and it was my third deployment. My previous two had been to Fallujah and then Ramadi, 2006. And we went ashore in Split, Croatia, myself and a few of the other machine gun squad leaders, and we got very inebriated. And we did what Marines on liberty do, and we decided to go get a tattoo. And we chose a terrifying-looking skull and crossbones off the wall because we were Marines, and skulls and crossbones are a pretty standard military thing. And we got those tattoos. And then we all moved on with our lives.
So today I'm going to be giving some more good faith criticism to other leftists, and I know people will accept that really well and not get super defensive in the comments like in my Gary's economics one. But today I wanted to make a video about the Graham Platner situation, and you guys might be asking, why would a British guy be commenting on the Democratic primary for the main Senate? And I feel like this is a very important topic for leftists to talk about, not because what happens in the main Senate really affects people around the world, but I think this case study is such a good example why people generally don't trust Western white leftists. And if you guys follow me previously on Twitter, now on Blue Sky, yes, I've made lots of jokes about American leftists actually often being fascists and stuff. These are jokes, but the truth of it is lots of Western leftists, and especially American leftists, still cannot unpick the brainwashing and propaganda when it comes to the US military. One of the biggest, takes I've often gotten pushback on is my criticism of US veterans who still use the veteran title as something that gives them, I don't know, some sort of insight or prestige. Like I've always said, if you did serve in the military, going around and telling everyone you're a veteran and somehow as a leftist veteran that makes your voice more credible, I don't think personally is a good thing, especially when you're not from a country where they have the draft and you just spent 2 years in an office doing some drills on the side. You literally were in a volunteer military doing some of the worst war crimes in the world. But for people like Hasan and the Majority Report, someone like Graham Platner being a veteran of some of the worst wars this century is actually a good thing, which is even more bizarre because he's not exactly unrepentant about his service. Let's get this straight before we talk about the video. Graham Platner is not a Ron Kovic figure. He is not someone who was brainwashed and served in the military because of this brainwashing, came out disillusioned, and then spent his life fighting against US militarism and protesting all these wars, including the Iraq War. Graham Platner was a guy who said he knew the Iraq War was wrong and then did 3 tours of Iraq in some of the most brutal battles there where the most civilians died, in places like Fallujah that had been permanently poisoned. And then he left the military after serving in Afghanistan and Iraq. And in 2018, in his early 30s, he joined Blackwater after they changed their name because they'd massacred Iraqis, and then under Donald Trump's presidency served as a contractor for the US government in Afghanistan. So the rehabilitation of this guy already, I've spoke about before, it's insane. Because, again, he's not a Ron Kovic figure. He's not even an Oliver Stone figure, someone who became disillusioned with the military and the US government and made these works talking about the Vietnam War. This guy has actually said on Reddit he wishes he could have fought in the Vietnam War. I just don't understand how American leftists, especially white American leftists, are so easily fooled by these people believing they are like someone who's going to lead the revolution, and they're actually good because they were in the military and then became a leftist. And then you shouldn't be surprised when more controversy comes out that yes, this guy also has a Nazi tattoo on his chest, which fits in line with a lot of stuff we know about the War on Terror era, with the US military being filled with both Nazi iconography and also like actual Nazis, right? So I'm not saying this Graham Platner is an ideological Nazi or anything like that, but to discount his actions and his life and pretend that isn't actually a representation of his worldview at all, even when he was doing the exact same shit when I was making YouTube videos in 2018, by the way, it wasn't that long ago, I think is utterly insane and shows why white leftists, why we have a reputation that we can't be trusted. Not only have we broadly promoted this guy already, most people now on Twitter are defending the Nazi tattoo, and I'm just like, what fucking world do we live in now where this guy who has likely done war crimes then went back for more recently, has a Nazi tattoo throughout the whole thing? Now we're trying to rehabilitate his image and defend him, and acting like expecting him not to have the tattoo is like some crazy purity testing. I think, again, as American leftists especially, you have to think about how your military upholds this brutal system, and how if this person isn't deeply repentant about what he did, you cannot fucking trust him at all. And he's not repentant about what he did. He became disillusioned with the military. There is a massive difference there. Again, he isn't even a Ron Kovic-like figure. So going to get into all of this today, going to get into the left-wing reaction. I like a lot of the people I'm going to be talking about today, but I think as a white leftist myself, although I'm not American, we have to talk about this stuff. Just like with Gary's economics, we act like the white working class is the working class. And we act like if we get them on board for anything, then we're good. Not realizing that pursuing this strategy at all costs, like with Gary's economics or like this Graham Platner guy, you're alienating the poorest in society who are often the non-white working class, and you're ensuring they'll be more apathetic to a system that already discriminates against them by offering them a guy like this. So all of that coming up for you today. If you like the video after you watch it, please leave a like. Please make the comment section constructive. Don't just start saying, I've always hated Hasan, I always hated the majority report, I always knew they were trash. Let's try and keep it a bit constructive and stay on the point of I'm broadly making about white leftism in the imperial core. So if you want to follow me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Blue Sky and also on Instagram. And if you want to support my work, check out my YouTube memberships and check out my Patreon page as well. So again, because a lot of you people watching this aren't American, you probably don't know about the Democratic primary for the main Senate. So let's talk about who this guy is. Graham Platner. I guess Americans would call him Graham or something. So Teo wrote, meet the disillusioned veteran who thinks he can beat Susan Collins in Maine. Graham Platner is a 40-year-old oyster man and a US veteran. Born and raised in Maine, Platner joined the Marines out of high school, mostly out of like a young man's sense of duty and a bit of call to adventure. He deployed to Iraq, serving for 4 years. Upon returning, he went to DC to attend George Washington University, but he had a lot of friends still deployed, and he felt like he wasn't pulling his weight, so he re-enlisted in the army, deploying to Afghanistan in 2010 and 2011. Returning in 2011 after his fourth tour, he found himself disillusioned with the military. Platner says there was the baseline stress that one might experience through going through traumatic experiences like war, and then the realization on top of that I did not believe in the thing I had taken part in. There was also the trauma in seeing his friends die or get injured, and all the civilians living in the countries they deployed in, having their lives upended and destroyed, which this guy destroyed himself personally as well. It was all in the service of something that I could not find any value in, and that left me feeling very, very unmoored. So when you hear that, you might actually think of Ron Kovic, and although Ron Kovic did do multiple tours as well, he didn't then do this. After his return to DC, he was in and out of college, he picked up bartending, and in 2016, he moved back to Maine, where he began gaining support from the Veterans Affairs Department, getting physical and mental therapy. He felt a renewed call to service, and in 2018 got a job as a security contractor for the State Department in Afghanistan. He was working for Blackwater, not called Blackwater because they tried to do a PR rebrand after massacring Iraqis in 2007. But yes, here is a guy who, when he was older than me, after going through all this war in the service of US imperialism, participating in these wars that killed hundreds of thousands of civilians in illegal wars for US imperialism, came back home, got on with his life, and then thought, nah, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to Afghanistan under Donald Trump, who was dropping these huge bombs on Afghanistan, and I'm going to serve the US government again. I feel a renewed call to service under Donald Trump to go back to Afghanistan when I'm like 34 years old. This is the guy that leftists have been promoting uncritically. Like, do you trust this guy's judgment? Do you trust him at all just because he doesn't like Israel and says, oh my God, I like communism, on a Reddit account which he was posting on when he was doing mercenary work for Blackwater in Afghanistan? Like, fuck me. Like, the red flags have always been there. I don't understand why anyone gave this guy the time of day. So anyway, since he started his campaign, because he's got an endorsement from Bernie Sanders and he pays lip service to progressive ideals, a lot of the online left in America have been really excited for him. Hasan said that he's his GOAT, despite, a lifetime of serving US imperialism, even recently.
This is not because the military industrial complex is good or permissible. This is not because the military actually does any good whatsoever. It doesn't. I see it as a fucking jobs program. Once called himself a communist, dismissed all police and said rural white Americans actually are racist and stupid. According to deleted social media posts, reviewed by CNN's K-File, my fucking GOAT.
And the majority report have just been talking about how great he is. It's like he was made in some sort of factory to be this perfect leftist candidate who appeals to disillusioned young men and shit like that, right? Then recently it came out, obviously, he had this Reddit account. And honestly, I don't really give a shit about most of the things he posts on this, because a lot of what he posted in this is like more left-wing positions, and that's why leftists have been saying they like him even more. So CNN reporting some of it. So most of the posts were made under Platner's then Reddit handle P Hustle, which were deleted ahead of the campaign. He says he disavows the post, which you would expect because he talks about communism and stuff like that. But in one now deleted Reddit post from 2021, he responded to a thread about people becoming more conservative as they age, saying, as I got older and became a communist. In another Reddit post that year, he reflected on his service, saying he was a vegetable-growing psychedelic taking socialist these days. After the war, I stopped believing in any of the patriotic nonsense that got me there in the first place, and I'm a firm believer that the best thing a person can do is help their neighbors and live a loving life. And that's why after doing half a decade in Iraq and Afghanistan, you took 7 years out and then went back under Donald Trump. He talked about all cops being bastards, and then has since told CNN that he has a lot of friends who are police and they are mostly okay. He was in the Socialist Rifle Association subreddit. He used slurs like the R slur and stuff like that, and just talked about being disillusioned through the various wars he fought for America. Now, one thing you would think a disillusioned veteran of multiple tours of duty would be against is actually fighting in other wars, but no. Here's a post he actually wrote. So, responding to, what American wars would you have volunteered to fight in? This guy already volunteered to fight in multiple. The Indian Wars, the Philippines, Haiti, and Nicaragua in the 1920s. He's literally saying, I wish I could have fought in the worst imperialist wars of America. And then he goes on to say, Vietnam, Nicaragua, and El Salvador again in the 1980s. Nicaragua and El Salvador, which were run by fascist governments with the CIA supporting their fascist death squads to target socialists and just general communities, carrying out the most brutal war crimes. This guy wanted to go back in time and do all of this. As for would, I did for Iraq and would love to get to go to the GAN. Small wars are pretty enjoyable. It's the big ones, with days of artillery fire and inhumane brutality that take the fun out of fighting. But small wars, Iraq and Afghanistan are small, provide the rush of small combat actions, along with the intellectual challenge of building personal relationships and infrastructure within the local community. Small wars are thinking wars, which I much prefer over the bloody slugfest of great power conventional warfare. Oh, and the revolution because I'm American. So yeah, it seems like this guy is not a good dude, and I also judge people by their entire lives, and if you're still going back to Afghanistan in your mid-30s to do more imperialism for the US government, you have a history of doing US imperialism for the US government, and at some point in your life you were fantasizing about going back in time to work with fascist death squads to kill civilians in America's imperialist wars, then yeah, I don't think you're now great and based because since 2021 you've posted about being a communist sometimes, right? But I feel like American leftists Like they both love veterans and they love rehabilitated Nazis and stuff. It's bizarre. So when of course it comes out, he has a giant Nazi tattoo on his chest. Like he still has it today. I don't think anyone can be that shocked. So it's an SS symbol as well. And people are playing super dumb on Twitter right now. Loads of leftists saying, well, I've never seen that symbol. Well, firstly, that's on you because you've seen this symbol a lot in the war between Ukraine and Russia on both sides. I've seen it a lot on the Ukrainian uniforms. But also, if you are a leftist online, you have definitely seen this symbol. And if you haven't, that's just on your education. If you consider yourself an anti-fascist and don't know what an SS logo is, then that's on fucking you and your poor education. But he has defended himself. And he went on Pod Save America weirdly, and he acted like it wasn't really a big deal, and like he wasn't a secret Nazi, and he explained he got it in Croatia in 2007 when he was drunk with a bunch of his buddies, right? And he talks about how people have seen it since then, and no one has ever said anything.
I was a machine gun section leader with Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines. We were on the 2-2 Mu, and it was my 3rd deployment. My previous 2 had been to Fallujah and then Ramadi, 2006. And we went ashore in Split, Croatia, myself and a few of the other machine gun squad leaders. And we got very inebriated. And we did what Marines on liberty do, and we decided to go get a tattoo. And we went to a tattoo parlor in Split, Croatia, and we chose a terrifying looking skull and crossbones off the wall because we were Marines, and skulls and crossbones are a pretty standard military thing. And we got those tattoos. And then we all moved on with our lives. And I actually joined the Army after that, where I got, I had to go to MEPS. I got screened. Later on, I got a security clearance and a full screen when I went to work for the State Department as a contractor doing security for the ambassador to Afghanistan in 2018. And I've also just lived my entire life like a regular person with the skull and crossbones on their chest, which by that I mean taking my shirt off, performing Miley Cyrus songs in front of my extended family. And to my sister-in-law, and just taking my shirt off at the beach.
Right, presumably going to the beach, yeah.
I mean, I went to college. I went to the gym. I did all the things. And at no point in this entire experience of my life did anybody ever once say, hey, you're a Nazi. It never came up until we got wind that in the opposition research, somebody was shopping the idea that I was a secret Nazi with a hidden Nazi tattoo.
So this answer is complete bullshit. And anyone suggesting he doesn't know, it's just pure cope because you've propped this guy up so much, right? So I don't know about you guys, but as someone who loves military history and loves history, of course I know what these symbols are, but so many people who love military history also join the military, right? And I'd assume, as someone who is fairly educated like this guy, seems smart enough, he knows what this is as well. Like, if you join the US military, you're already going to be bombarded with all the history of your units and stuff, and he was in the Army and the Marines, so the Army obviously fought the Nazis in World War II, where the Marines fought the Japanese, and there would have been so many people with him in his deployments that would have loved World War II and would absolutely know what that symbol is. In fact, there was a massive scandal during the War on Terror with US Army regiments having loads of Nazi symbols because there was a massive Nazi problem in the US forces, probably even worse today. And going to Croatia, which had some of the worst fascist collaborators in the war, he goes there and gets this skull and crossbones. And he's saying, oh, it's just a skull and crossbones. Sometimes tattoos just look crazy, right? So sometimes you just know. Sometimes you just know and look at something and you know that's a bad symbol. And again, he got that in 2007. He didn't leave fighting for the US military until 2011. And then he joined Blackwater, essentially. So imagine all the times he'd have his shirt off. You think no one ever said to him about what that tattoo was? No one has ever said that, brought it up. Like, what the hell is that tattoo? Or I really like your tattoo because I'm a white supremacist. It's total bullshit. going around military circles with loads of people who love military history and idolize the Nazis, or even if they're like military history enthusiasts, they might just like really know loads about the Nazi army and stuff. You get that a lot as well, or play loads of World War II video games. They 100% knew this, and he knows it. He knows it for a fact. And for nearly 20 years, he has had that on his chest and didn't think twice about it. And purely from a judgment point of view, do you trust this guy to be a leader of any sort? Do you trust this guy who seems to have had terrible judgment throughout his life, including until he was older than me right now, and you're going to trust him being a senator and maybe being a president, and he's probably been so brainwashed by the military? If this guy was the president, his foreign policy would be pretty much the same as Joe Biden, apart from the Israel stuff. That's the only thing he'd differ on. And also, there was a president who was kind of like that. It was Barack Obama, when he started his presidency, who wanted to be more like this, and then ended up being exactly the same. This guy, to me, just because he pays lip service to why the US military is sometimes bad and Israel is bad, is not a leftist you can trust. But now let's get on to the American leftist reaction to all of this. Graham is just a regular guy, and the establishment hates that. Seriously, regular people get Nazi tattoos and are career mercenaries and soldiers in the war on terror. Is that a normal person? And disappointingly, Emma from the Majority Report has just been posting like, I don't even know how these people are justifying it in their head. So someone called Ari Drennan, who is just like posting terrible takes 24/7, spoke about the tattoo. Don't really care for her, but that's what she posted. And Emma saying, Fetterman openly courted Israel lobby money. Platner is a working class veteran who has only taken small dollar contributions. The rest of his history demonstrates consistent left-wing and humanist principles, even in the Reddit posts outside the ones he has apologized for. So I want to talk about this tweet because I think it shows how even American leftists cannot unpick the brainwashing they have around imperialism, right? So to Emma and loads of these leftists, the rest of his history has demonstrated consistent left-wing and humanist principles. The rest of his history, even if we're being honest, it's only since 2018, like after he was a mercenary for Blackwater in Afghanistan, right? But his whole history, he hasn't been left-wing. Even if he politically thought of himself as some sort of leftist throughout his whole time, his whole history is bad. His impact on the world has been terrible as an individual. You can't even get much worse. And also, if he was an IDF veteran who had fought in like Gaza in 2014 and like Lebanon in 2006, and then he had like a massive Nazi tattoo, would anyone be giving this guy the time of day? Absolutely not. They wouldn't. So why are you giving him the time of day now and defending his Nazi tattoo after he's done all this terrible shit? I think people can change, absolutely. I don't think everyone has to be in a position of power. I don't think every career war criminal with Nazi tattoos has to become a senator. And I don't think that is the best people can get, and that is the best people can offer. There's plenty of veterans, if you want to play this game of leftist veteran, there are plenty of leftist veterans who didn't have a terrible service record like this, where they even go back to do it again under Donald Trump and then have Nazi tattoos. I'm sorry, it's just like the lowest bar imaginable to clear. And these leftists are just defending it like a lifetime of service to US imperialism, where you're killing civilians and brutalizing whole countries for US imperialism. That's not disqualifying. And also, apparently you've had humanist principles your whole life when it seems like you only changed in like the last 3 years. Someone else saying, I'm sorry, Emma, but working for Blackwater and having the Totenkopf tattoo is not a demonstration of humanist principles. She says, he addressed his stint in Blackwater in our interview. It's difficult for veterans to integrate back into society and find jobs that fit them. He needed the money. It was for a short period. I find this whole discourse about his background to be elitist. No, this is such an insane take. And again, proving my point about white American leftists, criticizing someone after having a career in the US military going to Iraq and Afghanistan for going back to Afghanistan to work for the worst PMC in modern history under Donald Trump to destroy Afghanistan again, criticizing someone who did that because they needed money is elitist. And this is why I've always criticized the argument that you cannot judge American soldiers because there's like a poverty draft. And because America doesn't offer its citizens all these benefits Europeans get, therefore you cannot criticize them joining the military in the first place. The American government obviously preying on the poorest among us. There is always a choice for people. And even if you don't agree with me on that, surely you can agree it's not elitist, and it's definitely a choice. If you need money to stop going to college like he did, stop doing your bartending work, to go yeah, I'm going to join Blackwater and go to Afghanistan under Donald Trump and work for the US government there to occupy this foreign country. Come on, this is not elitist in the slightest. And also, I'm pretty sure I read today, I haven't screenshotted this, I'll try and find it now. This Graham guy isn't even working class. He's not from a working class background. And this is just insane defense. And also, to Emma, I knew people from Afghanistan at university, right? And they were leftists as well. And do you know who they hated the most? They hated Americans. And I'm not joking. These are people who obviously have a country that used to be run by the Taliban. And one of my friends who was an Afghan leftist, he actually remembers that. And he hated Americans the most. So Emma, if you want to go tell him that he'd be elitist for hating Graham Platner and thinking it's a bad thing he was a mercenary, like, be my guest. What would you actually say to that guy? That, yes, if he didn't like this American coming back to occupy his country after already doing it, that's elitist. No, people in the imperial core do not need to be mercenaries for money. They just simply do not. Obviously, I appreciate people have mental health and physical struggles. Becoming a fucking mercenary for Blackwater, again, insane. It is not elitist at all. And also, as someone who knows British veterans myself, lots of people after the military get normal fucking jobs. I know one person who just became some sort of like mechanic or something, right? These are people who actually didn't even fight in wars, and yeah, they just became normal fucking people. This take actually drives me up the wall. And then another take, Graham Platner needs to get the tattoo covered up or removed. It should be live streamed, and he should do it at a shop owned by a Jewish person, or the tattoo artist should be a Jewish person. If there's not one in Maine, there should be one in Boston. I mean, I find that so fucking stupid. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter who fucking does it. Like, it doesn't make it any better if he gets it done by a Jewish person. I mean, does that make it all right? Like, is a Jewish person also going to absolve him of his service in making the world a worse place? I want to go through some other takes as well. So Emma saying, censorious hall monitor liberalism that refuse to accept growth in people, unless you're a corporate centrist, then all is forgiven, is far more of a threat to the Democratic Party's chances in the future than anything dug up on Platner. Crystal Ball saying, for me personally, I'll take a candidate with a regrettable tattoo over one that has steadfastly supported a genocide. I don't care for Platner, but it was fairly common during the height of the War on Terror for boot Marines to get stupid tattoos because they thought they looked cool. I know several Hispanic Marines who got that Nazi SS lightning bolts on their arms because they were scout snipers. Ryan Grimm retweeting that. Yeah, I think the people who get Nazi tattoos in the US military are more often than not actual neo-Nazis and not people who think they look cool. Are we also going to start saying that for Ukraine as well? Like, Ukraine that has this history of fascism, like the US has its own history with white supremacy, all of the people in the Ukrainian military who get these Nazi symbols actually just think they look sick. So one more post from Emma I just want to talk about a little bit. How many people get tattoos they thought they looked cool but didn't understand the meaning of? How many vets took mercenary work for a period because the US doesn't support them? How many young men have shit posted online? Do we want an authentic working class party or not? And again, this is the problem with white American leftists. She's acting like everything he's done is perfectly normal. Even in a country like America, which has a massive military, it's not normal. Like, this is not a normal thing for people to do. It's not a normal thing for people to both serve in the US military overseas in multiple tours of duty in multiple wars, then take a break for like nearly a decade and then go back and do it again. Like, just to hand wave that away as, oh, well, the US doesn't support its veterans. Like, what is the percentage of veterans that become mercenaries? I bet it's really, really small. And that tattoo just looks off. It just looks off. And 100% he knew. You have to be naive as fuck to think he didn't know what that was after the fact. Let's pretend he didn't know what it was when he got it. Let's pretend no one knew. I find that really hard to believe, but let's pretend. 20 years nearly of having it. No one has ever said, yeah, you might want to get that removed. If you didn't know what it is, that's actually a Nazi tattoo. A guy who runs around in military circles where more people than not actually love World War II history. No one has ever fucking said that to him. Come on. Again, this image of the white working man as someone who, like, you have to appeal to no matter what is insane. Do you not think of the implications of running a candidate like this now? You have to get like a multi-racial ethnic coalition to support these people who are leftists. And I'm going mad with the class reductionism that has been going on recently with Gary's Economics and Emma here. How do they not understand how this looks to people outside America and how it looks to people who aren't white in America? You are asking them to trust someone who built their lives on killing Arabs and Central Asians and then has a Nazi tattoo on his chest And you're saying it's elitist to criticize that. And also, do you not want to appeal to the working class? I'm sorry, even if we want to appeal to the white working class, let's say someone like Ed Dempsey in the UK, who is like the head of the railway union, right? There is a guy you can say, oh, he appeals to the white working class. And we have this figure here. He works with the unions. He's a strong voice for the unions. And there's lots of problems with him, in my opinion, in terms of even his view on class reductionism. But I'm willing to accept that a little bit more because, yeah, he didn't build a career on being a mercenary for imperialism and have a Nazi tattoo. But also in a place like that is more racially diverse from the UK, in America, again, you're thinking about who you're excluding with this. And like I said, in both America and Britain, the poorest elements of the working class aren't white people. They aren't white male construction workers who might love Donald Trump and shit like that. It is black Americans. It is black Americans from the Caribbean. It's black Americans from America itself. It is people who come from South America and stuff like that. And you're just going to alienate all of them because you're going to run the imperialist mercenary Nazi who 3 years ago decided he was a communist. And anyone who has a problem with that on the left is actually an elitist snob who doesn't believe in personal growth. Graham Platner can have personal growth. He can have that all day, and I hope he has it, and I hope he comes to regret his actions because he has had a terrible impact on the world, and I would say pretty unforgivable impact on the world. He is on par with people who served in the IDF, right? So I'm not going to be too forgiving of this guy because he was old enough to know what he was doing. He went back for more. He liked it so much he went back for more. It was such an adventure, he went back for more. And he wishes he could have been alive 100 years ago, so he could have done it even more, and even worse places where they were actually fascist governments that the US government were collabing with. So yeah, I hope he has growth and becomes someone who believes in good things and helps with like labor movements and makes up numbers for these things. Do I think he should be the leader of anything? A senator for Maine? Potentially like a presidential candidate one day? No fucking way do I think that. But let's go to one more. Let's just go to this clip of Hasan, who has also been defending him after calling him the GOAT. Again, I don't understand leftist obsession with racist mercenaries, but let's get into this.
But in any case, regardless of what people in this community say, I think it is positive that while there is an establishment Democrat pro-APAC liberal alternative out there that Chuck Schumer and the establishment Democrats love, liberals by and large are still standing by a dude with a horrifying background, okay? Especially as it pertains to the fucking totem cough tattoo. Do you understand? One must ask the question, why? Two things come to mind. Number one, liberals don't want to play the game of like, oh, this person is imperfect and they said something fucked up, no matter how fucked up that might be from my assessment, because I think having a fucking totem cough tattoo on your chest is completely insane. It is irredeemable, especially if you did not cover it up for 20 fucking years, okay? Having said that, I do think it's good that by and large, liberals are defending him instead of immediately leaning into the alternative. Liberals did not immediately look at someone like Graham Platner and go, I fucking hate this guy. This guy is saying he wants Medicare for all. We can't have Medicare for all in this country. What are you talking about? We need to keep having privatized healthcare in this country. That's the best possible way to go. Like that. But killing Iraqis isn't. We are talking about the average fucking person, the average American. They do not think of this in the way that you do. Oh my God. Terminally online chirpers that run around. Dude, go to a local coffee shop or go to, I don't know, a restaurant and try to hear what the average person's opinion is on someone who has done 4 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, a Marine Corps guy. They do not think that he is a baby killer, okay? In terms of broader consciousness, you have to look at where people are at, where the mean is, where the average person is, and what their political opinions look like. Yeah, go to a restaurant where there's a veterans discount. Go to a restaurant where they're offering a veterans discount and be like, why are you giving baby killers, genocidaires of Iraq, a discount? How dare you?
Again, even Hasan talking about the average American, like, loving people who fought in Iraq and shit like that. Yeah, the average white conservative American might actually like that. But Graham Platner is not just appealing to white working class Americans. So even him framing it as like, oh, liberals not trying to cancel him this time. Hasan has constantly praised this guy, even knowing his history in the past of working for Blackwater and working for the US military. And we can't build like this coalition throughout different groups of people if we start trying to pretend like people who made their whole livelihood on killing Arabs and Central Asians in illegal wars has a Nazi tattoo like champion someone like that. How's anyone meant to trust you? I mean, I don't trust people like that as a socialist. Like, I would never vote for someone like that. I would never downplay his record. And even before the Nazi tattoo, I would have said that 100%. I do not trust someone like this, especially when you take into account the length of his service and his mercenary work. I wouldn't. But then this tattoo just confirms to me he's a fucking idiot and a poor judge of character. So even if you're thinking about it like that, and you claim to not care about anything else, you have to think about even that, and also how easy he's going to be attacked, and obviously how bad it looks for the left as well. You're trying to promote this guy as the anti-Israel candidate who has the Nazi tattoo. So even purely optics, and I know these American leftist streamers and YouTubers love their optics. What are the optics of that? What are the optics of that? They're going to use that forever. And although they use attacks like Hamas Piker and all this shit, what if Hasan actually had a Nazi tattoo, right? That is literally what we're looking at there. And you're saying, well, that's good for the left? People say Hasan isn't a good representative for the left because of things to do with like his class and stuff, right? What if he had a Nazi tattoo? What if he was in Blackwater? What if he had like a career doing Iraq and Afghanistan and shit like that, right? Would anyone say we should prop up this guy? No. So I don't understand why people are dying on the hill. We must promote this guy. And also, this election is a primary. Run someone else. Support someone else. There's other people in the primary. There's some other people challenging the Democratic establishment. Not saying the guy I saw was good, but there was another person who was fairly progressive, but not the best. So it's like, why isn't the alternative like just support someone else? Like, it seems like the lowest bar. And again, this is why American leftists cannot be trusted, especially white American leftists. And I'm not saying that's exclusive, but how much they overlook imperialism and a guy doing so much damage to another country is insane to me. And obviously, I know these people, like at the forefront of their mind, are not racist or anything like that, but it shows the brainwashing still works. You don't view people who are victims of imperialism as equal. You don't view Iraqis and people from Afghanistan as equal. And you guys, like Emma and Hasan, very, very left-wing, obviously have done great work on things like Gaza and stuff, but the way you can't apply that to Graham Platner as well. Graham Platner is an IDF soldier. He's actually maybe even worse because he weren't even conscripted and he volunteered for it multiple times, right? And you would never rehabilitate an IDF soldier who became a leftist like 3 years ago, would you? You would never do it. So why are you doing it for this guy? And now we know he has a Nazi tattoo, and 100% he knew what it was. And I'm not saying he is an ideological Nazi, but he is racist enough. He doesn't give a fuck about still having it on his chest forever. And that's what you have to think about. Even if, as an American leftist, you have to think about how your support for things will actually affect people. Like, even if this guy won, and like I said, if he became president one day, he's going to continue the system of imperial extraction and continue these brutal wars. Graham Platner would absolutely have the same policies towards Iran and Yemen as the US government right now. And that would not be surprising to anyone with half a brain. But if you're so brainwashed by US propaganda that you think when a US soldier does these things, it's not actually as bad as an Israeli soldier because what? As Emma says, he needed money. He needed money. It's actually elitist to criticize him for joining Blackwater because he needed money. It's called having morals. And also, there's so many levels to it. Most US veterans don't join PMCs, firstly. Most poor Americans don't join the US military, secondly. So you have so many of those barriers and you're just jumping through hoops to make him look like he isn't a terrible fucking person. Like I said, I'm glad he's different now. I'm glad if he's sincere, he's different because that's good. There's one less pro-imperialist Nazi in the world. That's a good thing. Do I think he should be the senator for anywhere? Do I think he should be the leader of anything? No. Maybe create a support group for US soldiers who did terrible things and had white supremacist beliefs and educate them on how not to feel that way anymore. Why don't you do that? That's a good use of your time, Graham Platner. I don't think you should be a senator, and I don't trust you just because you've said some pro-commie and anti-Israel things a few times on a private Reddit account. And yeah, so that is it for the video. So white leftists, we have to do a little better when it comes to thinking about global capitalism and not basically showing everyone around the world who isn't American that, yeah, you don't give a fuck if people kill them and you'll still prop them up and sanitize their image even when they have something like a Nazi tattoo. That's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.